In this video, you will discover 5 of the most mysterious illnesses in world history that have left doctors and scientists baffled till today. So watch this video to the end. Our first mystery takes us all the way back to that summer morning of the year 1518 in Strasbourg, France. It all started with one woman named Frau Trophea. One day in July, she stepped into the street and began to dance. Not a joyful dance, not a celebration, just dancing. Hour after hour, without music, without rest. Her neighbors thought she'd lost her mind. But then something even stranger happened. Within a week, 34 more people joined her. By the end of the month, around 400 people were dancing in the streets of Strasbourg, completely unable to stop. Here's where it gets dark. Many of these dancers literally danced themselves to death. Heart attacks, strokes, and sheer exhaustion claimed dozens of lives. Historical records describe people with bloodied feet collapsing from fatigue, only to get back up and continue dancing. Eyewitnesses described it as a dance of death. The authorities didn't know what to do. At first, they thought the dancers just needed to dance it out, so they built stages and even hired musicians, thinking music would cure them. It only made things worse. Nearly 500 years later, the cause is still not certain. Was it mass hysteria, which was the most popular theory some of the scientists proposed, or hallucinations and convulsion linked to ergot fungus poisoning that grows on rye bread, even though some scientists argued that ergot causes limbs to constrict and not dance? Or was it something deeper, a psychological release from famine, disease, and religious fear? No one ever solved it. The dancing plague eventually just stopped. As mysteriously as it began, it ended. The dancers slowly recovered. But the question remains, what could make hundreds of people dance uncontrollably for days, even unto death? We may never know. But for one strange month in 1518, an entire city couldn't stop dancing, even to their deaths. Our second mystery takes us to 1485 in England. It struck without warning. A terrifying disease that swept through the country, killing quickly, brutally, and randomly both royals and common. It was called the sweating sickness. Healthy people would wake up fine in the morning, then suddenly develop a headache and feel exhausted. Within hours, they would be drenched in sweat with their hearts racing, feverish, and by nightfall, they would be dead. The mortality rate was catastrophic. Doctors were powerless. There was no rash, no sores, no known cause. People locked themselves indoors, terrified of the sweat. Between 1485 and 1551, England suffered 5 major outbreaks. Then, after the 5th wave, it disappeared as mysteriously as it came. It never came back. So what was it? No confirmed cause has ever been found. Some think it was a hantavirus. Others believe it was a deadly flu strain lost to time. Some think it might have been brought to England by French mercenaries fighting for Henry VII. Others suggest it was an environmental toxin or contaminated food. To this day, the sweating sickness remains one of the deadliest medical mysteries in British history. What makes the sweating sickness so disturbing is how completely it vanished. Did it mutate into something less deadly? Did humans develop immunity? Did the pathogen go extinct? Nobody knows. And if it came back today, we might not even recognize it. Jump forward to 1916, where our third mystery brings us. World War I is raging across Europe, and another enemy is silently spreading. Encephalitis, lethargica, also known as the sleeping sickness. But this wasn't the African sleeping sickness you might have heard of. This was something entirely different and far more bizarre. Around World War I, doctors began noticing a strange illness spreading worldwide. It started with a fever and headache, typical flu symptoms. But then came the sleep. Victims would fall into a deep, almost coma-like state, unable to move or speak, yet they were awake inside, fully conscious but trapped, sleeping for days, weeks, even months. Some never woke up. But here's the twist. About 1/3 of patients experienced the opposite. Instead of sleeping, they couldn't sleep at all. They would be trapped in their bodies, frozen like statues, wide awake but unable to move or speak. Others developed violent, uncontrollable movements. Between 1915 and 1927, the disease infected roughly 1 million people worldwide. About 1/3 died during the acute phase. But the survivors faced something perhaps even worse. Years, sometimes decades later, survivors would develop Parkinson-like symptoms. They would become living statues, frozen in their bodies, aware but unable to move, trapped in a waking nightmare. Decades later, researchers still can't explain what caused it. No one ever identified the pathogen behind it. A virus? A mutation? A post-flu complication? What silenced this disease? Why did it stop? Could it return? We still don't know. The answers remain locked in history. It remains one of neurology's greatest unsolved puzzles. In August 1951, the small, quiet French town of Pont-Saint-Esprit suddenly descended into chaos. Hundreds of residents went completely insane. People were hallucinating wildly, seeing flames, monsters, and demons, screaming that they were being chased by demons or that their bodies were on fire. Some believed they could fly and jumped out of windows. Others screamed that the world is ending. One man believed he was an airplane and jumped from a building. A boy tried to strangle his mother. Patients in the hospital were so violent, they had to be restrained in straitjackets. At least 5 people died. Dozens were institutionalized. The entire town descended into chaos. The official report blamed the obvious culprit: ergot poisoning, a hallucinogenic fungus in contaminated bread. Remember ergot from the dancing plague? The same fungus that causes hallucinations and convulsions. A local bakery had recently changed its flour supplier, and ergot was found in some bread samples. Case closed, right? Not so fast. Later investigations hinted at something more sinister. Was this a CIA mind control experiment during the Cold War? In 2009, investigative journalist Hank Albarelli published a book claiming the CIA had secretly dosed the town's bread with LSD as part of their mind control experiments during the Cold War. He claimed to have documents proving it. The CIA has never confirmed this, and many historians are skeptical. But it's true that the CIA was conducting LSD experiments during that period through projects like MKULTRA. So was it ergot poisoning? A CIA experiment? Something else entirely. The French government officially blamed ergot, but doubts remain. The truth may be buried in classified documents, or it may be exactly what it appears to be: a tragic case of food contamination. Either way, the madness of Pont-Saint-Esprit remains one of the 20th century's most unsettling medical mysteries. Our final mystery is perhaps the most bizarre of all. January 30th, 1962. It started in a boarding school in Tanganyika, now Tanzania. 3 girls start laughing uncontrollably. Within hours, it spread like wildfire. Soon, 95 of the 159 students are laughing hysterically, unable to stop. The laughter goes on for hours, sometimes days. Students couldn't eat, couldn't study, couldn't function. The school shut down on March 18th, hoping it would stop. It didn't. The students went home and brought the laughter with them. It spread to other schools, to villages, to other communities. Over the next 18 months, thousands of people across the region were affected. At least 14 schools had to close. Symptoms included not just laughter, but also crying, screaming, random aggression, and even temporary paralysis. Some victims reported feeling terrified even while laughing. This wasn't happiness. This was a medical event. The epidemic eventually burned out in June 1964, affecting around 1,000 people in total. The scientific explanation? Mass psychogenic illness again. Just like the dancing plague, researchers believe this was a case of mass hysteria triggered by stress, but no one could explain why it spread across regions or lasted for months. it faded on its own, leaving behind one of the strangest psychological pandemics in history. Which one of these mysteries shocked you the most? Let me know in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you enjoyed watching this video. See you in the next episode of The Mystic Explainer.